Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to talk about the hands-on experience on load balancer. In the previous video, we have understood that the load balancer is something which is available under the EC2 service dashboard. And under that, you're going to have the load balancer. Now, you're going to have multiple load balancers available. So firstly, we're going to configure application load balancer through a separate EC2 instance. Now, let's go ahead and create an EC2 instance for us to work with. Now, this EC2 instance should have something to, something which is hosted on it, so that's easy for us to browse it or to, access it. So let's take HTTP. HTTP is a very common example which we normally use because that's the only thing which you can actually browse on a website. So that is much easier. So what I'm going to do on this video is that I'm going to firstly launch an instance of an EC2 and I'm going to create it as web-server or EC2-1. So this is the first instance of web EC2-1. It is highly recommended that you do auto scaling in this rather than doing an EC2 instance launch, because when you launch an instance, it basically means that you have only one server instance of that. Well, it's not a problem. You can add another server and then you can put them part of the group. So that is also there. But when you create servers manually like this, there is a good chance that someone else might delete it also, because you have delete protection and all those things, but individual service like this does not come under load balancing or high availability. So that is something you should consider. But in this example, we will do that. On the next example, we will talk about auto scaling and adding the load balancer to that. Okay, so we will look at that perspective as well. So we will choose Amazon Linux here. We will choose T2 Micro. We will choose the default key, which I have over here. We will choose an existing security group, which we have been already using, called the default one, which allows the traffic connection from anywhere. So when you click on compare group rule, you can see that it is allowing everyone to have connect to the server. Connect to your infrastructure wherever the security group is assigned to. So I just hit cancel. So now this security group is something which you're going to access everywhere. And then here I'm going to configure storage as 10 GB. It's not needed that much of a space. 8 GB works fine, but I'm going to do with that. Now, do not launch the instance. As we are going to do this, there are two ways of doing it. Okay, you can launch instance and then you can connect to the instance and then install HTTP and configure HTTP there on the instance. But rather than doing that, we will do it with this one only. When you click on advanced detail over here, and when you come down, you have something called user data optional. So here you can type hash and then exclamatory bin bash, and then you can type yum hyphen m update hyphen y. So this will do a general m update, and then yum install hyphen y httpd. This is a process we are planning to install. And then echo. This is EC2 instance HTML page. You can put a H1 also over here, so this will highlight it. And then HTML. So you can copy this and put this on the front as well. And remove the slash. So this will echo into a file, which is basically your the default page in index.html under where www html index.html. So this is the file it will update it to, and then system ctl start httpd system ctl enable httpd. So this will start the httpd service, and enable the HTTP service also. So when the system restarts, it basically starts it up. So I have I'll put this one over here. You can take a screenshot of it. So this is basically the command. It's a very simple command. There's no complication here. So basically, I'm updating yum, installing HTTPD, creating this particular line and replacing it on the default index.html. And I'm starting and enabling HTTPD. That's it. So now just click on launch instance. Now, when you launch instance, you don't really have to connect to the instance and install HTTP, because these items are going to be executed as part of the instance creation. So after launching this instance, if you just go to running instance and refresh this, and then select this, and you have the public IP address, right? Just copy this public IP address, paste it over here, and type http:// and you're expected to see that page which we just spoke about. It may take some time because it may it will update yum, and then it will install the component. So it may take a little bit of time, but you should see that. Okay, so hello from EC2 install. Let me control refresh. Is this okay? So I think I replaced it. Hello from EC2 instance. Okay, I think I replaced it by copying somewhere else. So this is the wordings which we have included finally. Hello from EC2 instance, and that's the same page is coming over here on this IP address. Perfect. So now that we have completed the configuration of the instance, let's configure the load balancer. Now we're going to choose the default load balancer for any application, which is your application load balancer. Here we're going to name it as web-alb application load balancer. Now you need to make sure you choose internet facing, or else you will not be able to browse it. You will not get the DNS address, and you will not be browse it from my desktop. Okay, so just make sure it is internet facing, and make sure it is IP address version 4 is enabled. So dual stack means you will get version 4 and version 6, and dual stack without version 4 means that you will get only version 6 IP address. So that's pretty much. So we will go with the version 4 at this moment. Sorry about the background noise. So here I have the VPC configuration over here. Now in this VPC, I have all this availability zone. It is mandatory that you should select 2 availability zone at the minimum, and 1 subnet each of this per zone. You can also select all the zones. There's no issues about it. So your service which is applicable in that will be part of it, and your load balancer will be part of all the zones as well. So let me select 2 or 3 zones which is needed. So I'm gonna go with 4 zones over here. So the security group is the same what we have selected for the default one. So the default one is selected. And then here is the listener configuration. This is the very important part of it. Now let's just say, for example, your application works on HTTP or it works on HTTPS, either one. But if your application works on both HTTP and HTTPS as well, there's no problem. You can add another listener over here, like add listener. And in this one, you can configure HTTPS. You can see 443 and then select a target group. Okay, but my application currently only runs on HTTP. Okay, so in that scenario, I don't want to add another listener for HTTPS. But what you have to do is, like, we need to select something called a target group over here. So you will not see any target group. I'm not sure why I'm seeing target group over here. Let me remove the target group. I think I did remove. Action, delete. Okay, it's removed. Let me refresh this. Okay, got it. So target group, what is a target group? Why do we need to create a target group? Now we are creating the load balancer, right? But in this load balancer configuration, which we have done so far, there is no method of specifying the destination, right? We are saying that my load balancer should be internet facing, so people from the internet should be able to browse it. We are saying network configuration for my load balancer. My load balancer should be established in this four availability zones in this VPC. But we are not saying where it needs to go, where the request needs to be routed. In our case, our request should be routed to our instances, which is over here. So currently the running instances only one, which is web EC2 one. Now how I'm going to target this from the load balancer side, that is called a target group. Okay, a target group targets either, okay, I'll show you when I click on create. So when I click on create, okay, so you see that it can either target instances. You can select multiple instances and make it part of the load balancer, but it's highly not recommended to do in this way. But this is the primary way you should understand, okay? So when you're configuring the load balancer, this is the first thing you need to do to configure the load balancer through instances, and then through auto scaling, and then through lambda function, whatever you want to do, you can do it later. Okay, so now this supports the load balancing of instances within a VPC or specific VPC, and it also facilitates the EC2 auto scaling as well. We'll talk about auto scaling later, how we're going to configure load balancer for it later point of time. Or you can select IP address where you can support load balancer VPC and on-premises resources as well. And also it facilitates routing of multiple IP address and network interfaces. Rather than instances, you can choose IP address as well. Or else you can choose lambda functions as well. Or you can choose the application load balancer as well. So application load balancer, again, part of the target group. So when you are doing the network load balancer, you can use the targeting group to target the application load balancer, and then you can give the application load balancer details over here, which is the part of the target group, which is like the next one. So we have not created application load balancer, we are in the process of creating it. I have not hit the create load balancer button, so it's not created yet. So we will go with the instances option. So here I'm going to make it as web target group -tg, saying target group, and here I'm focusing on my target group will be focused on this TCP port of 80. So my applications which is going to be running in this instance will be at this particular protocol and the port number. You have the option of selecting directly HTTPS as well. Okay, so which is targeted to 80 port number. So instead of selecting TCP, you can directly select HTTP. So if you have HTTPS enabled on your application, you can select HTTPS. But in this vanilla HTTP, we have only enabled HTTP. Okay, not HTTPS. Now here you can see the default VPC. You can see the HTTP protocol. Here you can see some of the attributes over here on the HTTP health check protocol, the context root, which is your root directory. So likewise, you see some default options over here, and then click on next. Now this is where you need to select your or register your targets. Now, as of now, the available instances which is in the running state is this particular instance. This is where we have hosted our web HTTP server, right? So just click on include pending below. Okay, so now include as pending below. When you do that, you can see that this available instance becomes your targeted instance. Okay, once it has become your targeted instance, then you can click on create target group. Now once the target group is created, you will see the total targets over here as 1 and currently unused and initial. So right now it has not been mapped under any load balancer, but we will do so. So now that you have created the target group, you can close this and then go back to your previous screen where you have to select the target group. Just click on refresh and then select the target group which you have created. Now that you have selected the target group, you can go ahead and click the create load balancer, there are some advanced options on the target group, which we will talk later point of time when the need arises. But as of now, you can see that the listener and the rule says over here is that you have HTTP protocol 80, which is forwarded to your web target group, and web target group will have the instances which is going to be part of it. And sticky session is off, stickiness is off. Sticky session is nothing but if a request been routed to a specific server instance, it will make sure that that stickiness stays on. So every time that cookie information or the browser cookie comes in, or that particular user keeps on refreshing the request, he will end up in the same server which has been processed for the first time. So that is called sticky session. So that needs to be enabled at the target group level. So that is kind of disabled. So that's okay. Now you can see that you're getting 100%, which means it tells you that the servers which is configured within this target group is available 100%. And then there's like one rule, and if you click on the rule, you can actually understand the rule information, like how the routing happens. One of the important things I want to show you in the load balancer is the network mapping. In the network mapping, you can see all those servers, or sorry, all those availability zones and subnets for these availability zones are mapped over here. Another important thing I want to show you is the resource mapping over here. The resource mapping, shows you clearly the way it is mapped. So when someone comes in and they access this DNS name, they will get to this HTTP 80, and then that basically has a rule over here which forwards to the targeting group. And the target group name is web-tg, and that targeting group has one target within that particular group, and there is nothing unhealthy. And the targeting group is targeted to this particular instance, the EC2 instance over here. So it gives you the complete hierarchy and how the request will be passed on to the next down the line. So this basic information will give you the information on how the information is passed across. Now you can see the monitoring wouldn't have come up so far, but monitoring tells you about the ELB's performance, how many 500 errors, 400 errors, and all those errors which is as focused or it has received. You can also integrate it with other AWS services, which is again incurs extra additional cost over here, like WAF or config or global accelerator likewise. So it will give you the complete information on those action items as well. So we're not here to configure all those things. In security groups, we have the SG, which we have created by default. And on the previous videos, the same security group we are choosing over here. So this pretty much sums up the configuration. Let's go ahead and browse this. So for browsing it, copy the DNS name and then just replace this instead of the IP address. And when you hit the enter, it goes to HTTPS. So just make sure you select HTTP. I think it came on HTTP. So now I just do control refresh and you can see that this instance is coming over here. Okay, so this is pretty much what I want to show you. And if you create another instance, for example, what we will do is like we'll create another instance web-ec2 2, and then in this instance what we will do is like we will leave everything as default. In this instance we will copy paste the same thing, and then we will say like second server here. Okay, we will give this additional information here saying that this is a second server. So I'm gonna select the key pair and launch. So now it's launching the instance. Now that we have added a new instance to our existing server, now let's wait for the instance to initialize. So it's initializing. Now what we will do after it initializes, we will browse this instance, see if this instance works fine. I mean, individually. think it's still coming up. Yeah, it would take some time for it to come up and then Yum to be updated, installing components and all those things. It's gonna take a bit of time. So let's just see if this works fine. I'm gonna pause this video and pause it once it is completed. I don't wanna hold you up. Well, it's not working because of the security group configuration. So I'm just gonna modify that. So I'm just gonna change the security group to something else like which we normally use. So just gonna go to security, change security group, and then I'm just gonna remove that and I'm selecting the default one and adding that. So this should fix the problem. I mean, like, yeah, there you go. So now you got the second server instance name over here. So when you browse the first instance, you're gonna get this instance, and then the second server is gonna come up with this one. So as of now, we are browsing it individually on this IP address on directly on the system. Now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to add, all I have to do is like I don't have to modify the load balancer. I don't have to do anything. Go to the target group, um, select the target group, and then all I have to do is like register this target. So just click on register target, select the second instance, which is over here. Already first instance is here. Select and second instance I've selected, and then include on the pending below, and then register pending targets. Now you have two targets. Now this is a very good example I want to show you in terms of how sticky session works. So by default, sticky session is disabled. So which means that I don't have sticky session by default. So which means that if I'm gonna refresh this, right? So I'm gonna get second server. If I'm gonna refresh it again, I'm gonna get it from first server. So this is the thing when the sticky session is disabled. You actually, when every time you refresh, right, you get your, you know, your request sent to a different server. That's basically round robin method. So if you see, the ALB is configured by default a round robin method. So what that means is that your request will go one by one to every server it has. So that's the default method of your request getting routed as part of the method. So here you can see the monitoring has started working. There are two monitoring came into existence. One is the response, request, the number of requests which you're getting, and the response time. Okay, and then a few other came in over here in terms of errors. So there is this 404XX error, so which means like something related to your, it could be permission denied of file not found or something like that. Could be 400x, so 404, 403. Likewise, all those exceptions would come and get displayed over here, telling you the amount of exceptions which is coming through on your from your load balancer. So very useful method of identifying it. So in terms of targeting group has all the information towards how your request will be routed. Okay, so right now, this availability zone has two targets, so you can get that information from here. You can also see the monitoring of these virtual machines and how many hosts you've added as part of this target group and what's their health. So we have added 1 to 2 and all those two are healthy. That's why it is an up. If it's not healthy, it's going to come down. So there is no unhealthy host over here. You can see the healthy host average. You can see the target response time, the request, and all those things from coming from that area as well. So likewise, you kind of get all those details. Now in the target groups, you have this health check settings over here. So here it talks about like 2 consecutive health check failures is deemed to be unhealthy, and then it's going to mark that host unhealthy, and it's not going to be part of your load balancer. So 5 consecutive health check is success. So when unhealthy host goes to unhealthy, a host goes to unhealthy state, it needs to do 5 health checks to come back to the healthy state. So interval is 30 seconds and timeout is 5 seconds, and success score is 200. So 200 mostly in HTTP language means success. And then there are some attributes over here about stickiness. So this is where you can enable stickiness. Here where you can actually change your round robin mode to weighted average or any other mode. So just click on edit. You have the least outstanding request, weighted or random, weighted random, and you have round robin. That's the default one. And then you have the stickiness over here, so you can select the stickiness if you want that stickiness to be available. So now I've just selected the stickiness duration is 1 day. Now you can make it 7 days also, so hourly based, seconds and minutes also. It's always recommended to have 1 day sticky session. Now, how do you want the sticky session to be? Load balancer generated cookies or application based cookie? Application based cookie means your application will have a unique cookie name, and you can track the load balancer. The ALB will track that cookie name, and then it will basically hold that stickiness on that. Load balancer track means it will automatically generate a cookie session ID, and that session ID will be tracked. Now let's just save this changes, and then let's look at our website right now. So now I'm refreshing this. So currently I am stuck with this one server instance only. Now the instance is not changing that often. As you can see that I'm stuck with the second server instance no matter how many times I refresh. So this is what sticky session means. It took a little time for it to get through that change, but the moment the change has come through, like whatever the save we have done, right, you can see that I am refreshing. You can see that it's changing. So because I'm doing control refresh, I'm holding control as well as F5 together. So now you can see that how many hour times I refresh, it's not going to the first server, it's only sticking with the second server. This is called sticky session. So I've shown you all those things about the load balancer. On the next video, we will do the same load balancer configuration too, through auto scaling group. And then we will see what is the benefit of that. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.